Hello there, everyone. This is Antonia Tamburello, and I put this PowerPoint together of protective specialist trainee assessment tips. Because I remember when I was in training in the academy, I was saying to myself, gee, it would be really, really nice if I knew some of this. What I was going to experience. It'll take the edge off and makes for smoother sailing through everything. It makes you feel good. So I thought I would put this together um, to help you guys, um, when you're in the academy. All right, so let's begin. Okay, so here we are on the introduction, and this presentation covers the assessment profile of a CPS in training. So the assessment includes any prior education that you bring to the position, which will show readiness to participate in a training unit in your location. But it's really not necessary to have prior experiences in the field of working with children and families. Okay, so this is just extra means for the assessor to use in determining one's overall sense of abilities. Okay, so examples of what one brings to the position with experiences, here are some ideas, like foster parent experiences, licensed foster home, licensed therapeutic foster home, knowledge of permanency hearings, or knowledge of court systems, supervising families. These are some of the ideas of experiences that are actually part of what um, a CPS can experience in the field once they're, actually working with an agency. So if any of these particular experiences is something that you have under your belt, it's something that they look at, they like that, but it's not necessary. I just want to bring that to your attention. It really is not necessary, so don't worry about that. But I thought I would give you an idea. Okay, so moving along to the next slide, we have skills to demonstrate. So you have engagement, empathy, respect, genuineness, working with families. So basically, where this comes into play is there'll be discussions in this training class where you get a chance to actually demonstrate these particular skills in particular scenarios that the teacher there will bring up so that they can see that you can actually engage this in live view in the classroom in the groups, because they want to see how you would demonstrate that you're going to work with the families. I mean, and you'll also, don't worry about that. Like it's not like, like you're given the script and you're on a stage and you have to memorize things. It's something that wants to come from you in a natural sense because you want to bring your authentic self and your genuineness to working with families. That's really very important. They want to see that you can actually interact with the families. So that's what all this means. Okay. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we're going to talk about demonstrating knowledge of question types. So we have 4 different ways that we ask questions: an open question, a closed question, a direct question, and indirect questions. And when we're investigating the questions that we ask. Okay, so that's really very important to demonstrate when you're investigating. So an example of like an open question would be something like, okay, so how could we improve our diet? That could be an example of an open question. A closed question could be something like, okay, is the veggie salad on that menu? Because see, now the person has to say yes or no, right? That's closed-ended. Then there's a direct question. Okay, so why did you go to the ferry last night? Okay, so the person has to give you a direct answer. And an indirect question could be like, okay, can you tell me where the library is? Okay, so that's a sample of these kind of questions that you'll be asking and when you're investigating. Okay, so let's see. In the next slide, we have demonstrating identification of safety. So we have safety criteria, behavioral issues, situations, crisis, safety plans, and assessment. So there's going to be discussions about the safety criteria that you're going to be looking for, behavioral issues. You want to be able to identify them and assess all this. So this is what they're going to be looking for when you study case scenarios. You're going to be studying case scenarios. You'll be asked questions. They have quizzes in between. And I remember a lot of group activities, and they will break up the different groups and rotate them in for different scenarios so that you're working with different groups in your class. When you're in the academy, you work with different groups of people, and you get to discuss the case as if you're actually, caseworkers working in a unit. And then you would come up with the scenarios about, like what did you identify as the safety issues in this particular case. So you get the experience of that, working in groups. It's fun. It was a lot of fun, and you learn a lot. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we are going to talk about risk. So I wrote here, understanding risk scenarios speaks to the future harm, and communicating demonstration about future risks and discussions of behavioral changes parents can take for protection of the children. So basically, you want to be able to understand and assess for the risk, and then like while you're visiting with these families and you're assessing this, you have to be able to communicate with the family about what you are perceiving as the future risk, and actually having that discussion with them to have to come up with a plan about how the parent is going to make the changes for in the behaviors to prevent that risk from happening. Okay, so that needs to be demonstrated in a class as well. And again, it goes along with all these. There's a lot of case scenarios and group activity to demonstrate this. And as you're moving along in the class and you're going through all these assessments and little quizzes that they give you, then there are a moment in time where they actually give you an assessment sheet that, they actually rate how you're doing, because this is all important for the transition when you actually are hired and um, you're now working with an agency. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide, we're going to talk about critical thinking. So in critical thinking, you're collecting information, organization of this information, hypothesis, assessing, and then we have investigation of the case information. So basically, from gathering and collecting all your information on the case, and you're organizing all this different information, and you're coming up with the different ideas, the hypothesis. Now you're going to assess for these hypotheses to see which ones you're going to rule out as it doesn't pertain to this case, it has nothing to do with it, and it's all wrong, until you finally get to the correct hypothesis about what's going on in that family in your investigation. Because then what happens is now that is a very important part of how you're going to classify your investigation for this particular case. That's why we go through all that. Okay, you're going to go through all the gathering of information, organizing it, come up with the different scenarios that you think it might be until you find the correct answer for what's going on in the family. Okay, and you get to, experience that again. You're going to go through scenarios and cases, and you're going to work in the groups. You're going to come up with your ideas, and it's very important for you to be very active in these groups. You want the instructor in the academy to see that you are participating and you're demonstrating the critical thinking. It's very seriously important to show that you're getting this, everything that they're teaching you, that you're getting this and that you can demonstrate it. It's really important. Okay, next. Okay, so our next slide here is role playing, role plays. Okay, so we get mark case activities, working in groups, like I was explaining throughout this whole presentation. There's a lot of role playing, performance ratings, demonstration of skills, and you get regular quizzes during training. But nothing to be upset or nervous or scared about. If this is something that you really, really want to do, you want the practice, because you want to feel that you practice enough that you don't want to feel like a novice walking into a person's home to assess. You want to feel comfortable and, you're relaxed and actually assessing and helping the family, and what better way than to do a role play? So the mock case activity, working in groups, really helps a lot. And like I said, you want to be very active in giving your ideas, raise your hand a lot and, explain what you think. That's very important. You want to explain what you're thinking and demonstrate the skills, so that the instructor is getting an understanding that you know what's going on. Okay, next slide. Okay, so here is other skills assessing the conditions, assessing factors, perspectives, and parenting skills. So we want to be able to assess these parents and to find out if there's any underlying conditions in their behaviors, if there's any impacting factors, what is their perspective on their parenting skills, because all this assessing is important because this is where you have to figure out about the safety of the children, what kind of preventative services you might have to place in this home to help the family. This is why it's so important to be able to assess correctly. And you'll get a lot of practice in the class, and you want to participate, ask a lot of questions, demonstrate what you're understanding so that you can show the instructor that you actually, you're getting this. Okay, and there's always regular quizzes along the way. You want to, just relax and be comfortable while you're trying to go through all this. It's, it becomes, like, I found it to be fun working in the groups. I really enjoyed that. I think you'll enjoy it too. It's very helpful when you're working together. And it's kind of like when you're working in the groups, it gives you a feeling of what it would feel like to be in a unit because you get to discuss each other's cases and, and you could help each other with coaching. And that becomes a lot of fun as well because it's like, a unit can work together and mirror each other and help each other with each other's cases. And in that realm is really a lot of hands-on help in closing cases or actually making recommendations about services. It's always good to help each other out and to see from another perspective. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I know that I wish I would have had all this, I was thinking about it. I said, yeah, why don't I do this? I would like to extend and help in the community in this way and give some ideas about what I went through in all the different categories. Okay, so I thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and keep a lookout for some future PowerPoints. I'm working on a few more. And you have a good evening. Bye.